Hello, welcome to the Apostles Acumen. I'm Apostle Ashley Clater, and today we're going to highlight a very interesting piece about apostles and prophets. Apostles and prophets historically save nations. Now, I know we have regulated these offices down to the church and what they do for the church and the church regulating them, but according to scripture, these two offices, and we teach this at Price University, these two offices predate the church. That is scripture. That is fact. So they are national offices before they are ecclesial offices. Very, very, very important thing to know, especially right now. Now, I want to challenge you to go back through scripture and look at how, especially, of course, in the Old Testament, the prophets were used with kings in wars to deliver nations, to defeat armies. Prophets, strategy, insight, wisdom, all of that from the prophet's mantle. Moses being the apostles' prototype, establishing God's government for his nation, not for the modern church that we have today as we know it. Apostles and prophets are intrinsic and intricately woven into the nations of the planet. I have here a picture on the screen of a global flags so that we can get the image here of what we're talking about. Go back through scripture and look at the prophets for God and not for God. The prophets of Baal were about preserving the nations in which Baal was over. The prophets of Jehovah, of Yahweh, were for his nation. Balaam, I mean, the list goes on. The battle of the prophets in the Old Testament, the apostles in the New Testament, who were what? Going to kings, heads of state, heads of nations, as we would call all the titles that we use now. That's where the apostles were going then. So they were, as they were building out the church, and that was happening, they were dealing with the heads of nations. They were dealing with the apostles and the prophets throughout time, dealing with laws, how they were made, addressing who was righteous and unrighteous, what they were going to do to the nation, how they were going to either deliver it or throw it into bondage, how a leader was going to push a nation toward the Lord or draw them away from God, and the judgments that came thereof. So we really have to get it out of our minds that the apostle and prophet's role is to stay in the church and to play it safe. We've seen over the last 5 years for sure how many of these two officers have played it safe, retracted on what God had told them to say when the pressure was turned up by the church. We are not governed by the church. We are not established by the church. These are the top two offices, just like the federal government is not governed by the local government. That's not how any of this works. And we need to get back into our places as apostles and prophets, get into our seats of leadership in our communities. So when God downloads to us a vision or a plan or a strategy, it's not for us to just write in our journal, it's to actually go to our seat of authority and make it happen. It is not enough to have power in the spirit. We need to have power in the natural. It's not enough for us to just take the time to war in the spirit realm without coming and stepping back into the natural realm and executing it through an official office or an official station, whether that's in your business, in politics, in ministry, in teaching, in the music industry, wherever you're called to be. It's time to work, war, and pray without ceasing. But it's not just time to pray alone and hide in our prayer closet, but to get out of our prayer closet and remember that historically, apostles and prophets saved nations.